Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of 10 Minute Tuesday. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe. And today I have Kedeisha Bryan in the building. Kedeisha, what's going on?
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Thanks for joining. So we've done a number of these, so let's go ahead and hop into it. Kedeisha, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, so my name is Kedeisha Bryan, founder at Data in Motion, also data scientist at Pulsa. Fell into data analytics about 3 years ago. I'm a non-traditional background. So at the time, I was working at a warehouse. Before then, I was delivering Amazon packages. Before then, I was delivering pizzas. And then before then, I was serving in the Navy. So very non-traditional, but I'm here now.
Awesome, awesome. So, I mean, you really had to grind, get after it, but then there was a moment you was like, man, I want to get into data, or maybe somehow it just happened. So, what really compelled you to get into data to begin with?
So I went back to school after I got out the Navy, and I was studying industrial engineering technology, and I liked it because it was versatile. But then I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do when I graduate? So I talked to the interim dean of the college I was at, Kennesaw State. She mentioned when she got out of school, she was a data analyst at Delta, and so I looked it up. I really liked it. I researched. And I saw like data scientist and data engineer. I was like, okay, data analyst looks good. So I just looked something up on Reddit. I actually initially wanted to be a supply chain analyst because that was in line with what I was studying. And some random Reddit post I saw said go learn Tableau, SQL, and Excel. And so that's what I did. Went on Data Camp, Data Quest, all the YouTube stuff. Taught myself while I was working like 10, 12-hour days at the warehouse. And then at some point, I think I had like maybe two shoulder injuries in like 2 weeks. And I was just sick and tired of it. So I quit that job and just studied data analytics and taught myself full time and built a portfolio, did projects, and landed a role maybe like 2 months later.
Love that, love that. So, you had that moment of like, you know what, my arm hurts, my body hurts. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm going to get after it.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, thinking about your journey, you mentioned that you had a number of jobs before you got into data. So, to date, what has been your least favorite job that you've ever had?
Ooh, let's see. It's definitely going to be a tie between delivering packages for Amazon and working in the warehouse. With Amazon, it's like you get to move around. At the warehouse, you just move like very heavy stuff, cases in one spot. So I'll say probably the warehouse because you're in one spot. You're not really cared about very much. It's very depressing too, especially at that time because I'm like, I'm a veteran. I was doing such great things before. Now here I am, and nothing wrong with like front end work. It's just where I was at that point. I just felt like I was just destined to do a lot more, and yeah, it was definitely not a great job that was encouraging or anything. So definitely the warehouse was the worst job. There's just not a lot of motivation there beyond what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely a grind and a grueling like job position. Like there's especially doing what's it Prime about to come up, Prime Week's about to come up, then you got holidays and stuff. Like you're really working. Like you're not just standing around. So you're really, yeah, they do a lot for sure. Okay, so thinking about your experience and your journey, right? You talked about you were in the Navy, but then now you're a data scientist, you're a founder of Data in Motion. So the journey, has been ups and downs and a lot of twists and turns, but people often see the success, especially on LinkedIn. What would you consider your biggest failure with quotation marks around failure, and what did you really learn from that experience?
All right. Failure. I would say, it's not going to be data analyst related. I would say my biggest failure is what kind of started this non-traditional path in the first place. I actually flunked out of school 8 years ago at this point. So I graduated high school, good grades, but I was just kept switching majors. I did 4 years of school and nothing really to show for it other than student loans and a bunch of credits. And so I flunked out of school with like a 1.7 7 GPA maybe. And I had no choice but to go to the Navy. So that was my biggest fear, I would say. I just felt like I just let a lot of people down, let myself down, let my family down. And it really I carried that burden like literally until, you know, 10 years after the fact, after graduating high school. So I would say that that's my biggest failure, dropping out of or failing out of college the first time.
Got it. Got it. So earlier in the conversation, you mentioned you were working full time, 10 hours, but then after hours, you was putting in that work. So learning SQL, Tableau, and everything. So I feel like my target audience are people who are trying to figure out and trying to get into the data industry and so on and so forth. So with the question of like your failure, did you use that as fuel to keep going and push through those exhausted moments or those days where, I don't feel like doing this dashboard. I don't feel like learning SQL, but I want to get through it.
Oh yeah, my current position, like in my opinion, and I say it all the time, like I hated my current position. Like I was not comfortable. Comfort is really one of the worst things in this field. If you're comfortable, right, then you're not going to put in the work. You're not really, it's not that big of a deal. No, I didn't like working in a warehouse. I didn't like working 10-hour days. I quit without a backup plan. My only plan was, okay, I'm going to get a role by August at that time. And if I didn't, I was going to go back to the warehouse. But no, I was motivated to get the heck up. I hated my situation. Like I was not comfortable. If you want it bad enough, you'll do it. There won't be any excuses. I hear people put excuses all the time, like, oh, putting some time, studying, an hour or 30 minutes a day. Well, it's better than working in a warehouse. It's better than whatever the heck you're doing now if you hate your job that much or if you hate your current position that much. So if you're uncomfortable, you're not going to have any excuses to do any of this stuff. Like you're literally sitting in a nice chair at a desk and like just typing. I mean, that was way better than, in the warehouse for 10 hours a day. So yeah, that was nothing. So
Love it. Love it. Great advice. A lot of people need to hear that. So shout out to Kedeisha for that advice. All right. So again, target audience, people who are trying to get into the industry, try to be a data analyst, or just, I don't know what to do. So what is one piece of advice you give someone who's just starting out in that career?
ooh, join a community. Um, Definitely join a community and definitely test out like all the free resources you can and go as far as you can with that. But definitely join a community because you definitely it's good to get support. It's good to be able to ask questions. The data community is one of the things that has helped me and got me to where I'm at because you can get free resources. You meet people. I've met so many people I can call like friends now that I've known or first started knowing like 3 years ago just through like discourse and stuff. So definitely join a community and don't get too lost in the sauce. Like don't get too lost in all the free resources and things like that. Focus on the fundamental tools, learn those first, and then kind of go from there. But again, just kind of stay focused on the fundamentals and join a community.
Awesome advice. I think what you really said is don't get lost in the amount of resources because it can be overwhelming, especially if you're starting out. And if you're like really in it, you're like, I have to read this, I have to do this, I have to get into this. So I think it's fantastic advice to say, like, kind of pace yourself a little bit.
Well, absolutely. And then, and as like a content creator, like we don't, every content creator doesn't have the same target audience. So and you as a consumer, you don't really think of things like that, but you can just be consuming things that's for a mid-level data scientist or an advanced data scientist, and you thinking that's for you when it's not the case. And you won't be able to distinguish that just kind of being, kind of new. So yeah, that's why you should definitely focus on the fundamentals, take whatever courses to focus on those fundamentals, and then kind of go from there and not spend 10 hours of your day watching, YouTube influencers.
Great advice. That'd be another conversation off topic on the influencers. All right, Kedeisha, tell me about the most influential people in your life and how they made an impact on you.
I mean, it's definitely my dad for me. Like that, he's been in my corner forever. So that, yeah, definitely my father. My father's the most influential person for me. Yeah, I can't think of anyone else. He immigrant a high school dropout and just came to this country and just had did everything to give us a great life, my whole family a great life, and he's still an amazing person. So definitely he's the biggest inspiration, biggest influence in my life.
Love that. Shout out to dads, man. Dads are great. They're
They are
awesome
great,
people.
yeah. Great.
All right, Kedeisha, where can listeners find you at online?
I am on LinkedIn. I'm also on the Discord. I have a Discord, but yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me pretty easily. I think I'm the only Kedeisha Bryan, maybe. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, so follow me there.
Awesome. And then I'll have your information in the description as well. So follow the link, follow her. She posts great content. She talked about earlier. Super cool person. So I appreciate you being on today.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said in the beginning, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Have a great day.